Boy, everybody talking mad shit about the new Mars Volta album, huh? Lay off. Mars Volta's brand new self-titled album, their 6th full-length release and the first one in 10 long years, is a strong and really interesting comeback for the duo that sees them in a new, more mature light. Now, I've heard lots of people, including singer Cedric Bixler-Zavala, call this a pop record. But I'm still struggling to see why so many fans see that as a bad thing. First of all, there's nothing inherently wrong with creating a record with some pop and indie sensibilities. And this is Mars Volta doing it. This band has constantly innovated across multiple genres, so I don't see why a pop record from them would be any different, and it's not. Also, I just want to know, what kind of pop music have y'all been listening to? Because I keep going through the top 100 pop songs from the last 2 or 3 decades, and I can't even find anything remotely like this record. So where are you getting your pop music? Seriously, tell me in the comments some pop bands that sound like this record. I'd love to know and I'd love to listen to. For me personally, I see more influences from bands like King Crimson, Jefferson Airplane, more of the era versus the era, if you catch my drift. And even some Mars Volta contemporaries like The Strokes, Dredge. I think the overall sound of the album is not really pop, but it does align with a lot of bands who, despite not being pop, have a lot of mainstream success. And isn't that wonderful? Don't we want these people to finally make some goddamn money after all these albums? Now, I should have prefaced this review by admitting to my bias. The Mars Volta is definitely my favorite band of all time. And it's not only because on a good day I look like the love child of Omar Rodriguez and Cedric Bixler-Zavala. The Mars Volta opened my eyes to a new world of sounds way back in 2002 with their Tremulant EP. And for an entire decade after that, continued to pump out record after record, year after year, with fresh lineups, new sounds and influences. So at this point, Omar Rodriguez Lopez can fart into a mic, slap on that signature phaser of his, and I will eat that shit up like mommy spaghetti. Yum, 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 yum. But I hope that through all my bias, I can say with some degree of objectivity that this is a genuinely good record that has a lot to offer to newbies and fans alike. Now, the first thing you'll notice even before pressing play on the record is how short the songs are. Gone are those slow-build masterpieces from the first 3 records, closer in structure to a Wagner epic than anything made in the past 50 years. Or any of the odd time signatures and dense arrangements of the first 3 albums. And that's to be expected to a certain extent. The Mars Volta has gone from being an 8-piece supergroup to just a bare-bones quartet. But again, if you feel like this is uncharted territory for them, you just haven't been paying attention. They've been playing with verse, chorus, structures and 4/4 time signatures since the days of Octahedron back in 2009. And in fact, I would still point to that record as their most accessible. But behind all the relative simplicity in this record are a couple of songwriters who are as mature as they come. Even though the Mars Volta hasn't been active since 2012, Omar Rodriguez has not let a year pass without releasing an album, or sometimes 6. This album is in many ways a culmination of all that experimentation. Now, Cedric went and become a Scientologist, and now he's back and dealing with a lot of court but we don't need to talk about any of that. The point is, this album isn't really 2 people kicking themselves back into songwriting shape. It's a genuinely good record that will hopefully introduce a whole new generation of listeners to this type of sound. And I think even though many hardcore fans have disliked this record, they would have liked it if the name of the Mars Volta wasn't on it. And indeed, while that is the name, the Mars Volta is more than a band. Much like King Crimson, the Mars Volta is a way of doing things. It's a label under which one of our generation's most prolific and outside-the-box duos have created some of the greatest records of our lifetime. To expect them, now nearing their 50s, to make records at the rate or indeed the energy level of the early 2000s is frankly just kinda arrogant. I think as fans, we're not entitled to tell artists what direction to take their art in. All we can do is remain open to their creative journey and enjoy it, especially when it's clearly not some phoned-in half-ass attempt at a comeback. I think one quality that binds every record from this band together, as diverse in genre, influence, and production value as they may be, is that they have always been unapologetic about experimentation and unaccountable to even their core fan base. And that was apparent in the 5-minute long ambient passages of Francis the Mute, to their use of Middle Eastern instruments and drum and bass-esque beats in their prog rock masterpiece Bedlam and Goliath. And now it's just as evident in bucking all these trends and just putting out a radical pop record. Because I'm old enough to remember fans complaining about how half of Francis the Mute is just basically noise. And now it's funny to see basically the same people complaining about how short these songs are. You gotta remember, time heals all wounds, but it also numbs all pleasure. I was a teenager when I first heard Deloused in Comatorium, with my own dreams of becoming a touring musician, and arrogantly confident that those dreams will be reality soon. That I would leave my authoritarian country behind and move to the US, make a killing in the industry, and eventually OD at 27. Now I'm a 32-year-old self-employed audio engineer, trying to pay rent and making shitty YouTube videos. And my dreams are as dead as most of the people I started my journey with. So let's just face facts. Nothing hits as hard as it did back in those days, for none of us. Things just sound better and more exciting when you're young. But as we get old and reality begins to settle into the cracks of our wildest dreams, we lose that special something. That ability to enjoy and absorb everything as they come. So consider, before you start trashing this decade in anticipation comeback, if it's this record that sucks, or if it's your life around the record that sucks. You're old, I'm old, Omar is old, Cedric is old. We're all older and eating a giant shit sandwich. So let's give each other a break, shall we? Here's some of my favorite songs from the album. I think it's a really good record. You should check it out. I'm going to give it a solid 9 out of 10. And I'm going to rank it the 5th best Mars Volta album ahead of Nocturnicate. One of the most disappointing things about the album is the artwork, which is also similar to Nocturnicate. And I just feel like Mars Volta went from creating some of my favorite artworks of all time in the first 4 albums to just making stuff that kind of looks like what a SoundCloud rapper would cobble together quickly from a bunch of templates on Google Sheets and call it an artwork. It's kind of weird. I don't like it. But to cut a long story short, when all is said and done, this album is chock full of incredibly emotional vocals, really, really catchy hooks, and backed by a drum and bass duo that brings entirely new grooves to their arsenal of rhythmic wonders. I also appreciate how they are once again going back to their Latin roots in some of the songs. So yeah, it's a good album, check it out. I'm making this channel to talk about music and films that not a lot of people talk about, kind of the less mainstream side of things. And if you like that type of stuff, please subscribe, because I probably have 0 subscribers at this point. So thanks for watching. Suggest me more music in the comments if you want. See you soon. And stop talking shit about the Mars Volta. Okay? Okay.